NABJ President Ken Lemon said in a statement that Vice President Harris is in talks to address the organization virtually after this week's festivities. For NPR News, I'm Mike Lyle in Chicago.
But speaking of journalism, so on July 29, 2024, NABJ, known as National Association of Black Journalists, posted on their website that the organization held or host an event with Donald Trump in Chicago during the annual convention. And of course, the moderators were Rachel Scott from ABC News, Harris Faulkner from Fox News, and Kadia Goba from Semaphore. All three ladies asked Donald Trump some questions. And I also want to read this statement too with you, Michael, and everyone else. So, of course, the original statement from NABJ President Ken Lemon, he mentioned regards about with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump being present. From the president himself, he stated, NABJ has been in talks with both the Democrat and Republican parties since January. NABJ was in contact with Vice President Kamala Harris's team for an in-person panel before President Joe Biden dropped out of the race in July. However, we were advised by her campaign at the time that her schedule could not accommodate this request. And then, of course, it was updated again on July 31st, too. This statement I read was at 7:30 a.m. Central. This one I'm reading now at 11 a.m. Central because of the situation of her not being present. NABJ is currently in conversation with the Harris, and again, this is their statement, for president campaign team to schedule a Q&A session between Vice President Harris and NABJ, either in person or virtually at some point in September 2024. Of course, everybody has seen a viral video of the panel, like yourself, Michael, with Donald Trump speaking with the three moderated ladies. But speaking about that, and I have to go over that because, again, you know, they did try to get Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, part of it. But going back, Michael, what was your opinion from watching the panel? And do you think NABJ was right to invite Donald Trump to this event? Or would have been better to have Vice President Kamala Harris instead, or both? What is your opinion on that?
I would have liked to have seen both of them there, actually, because, again, we mentioned off air, transparency is a big thing these days. You want to try and get both sides. But I will also say is this. There's a little bit of a background between the history we've had with inviting presidential candidates to our conventions. I've been a member of NABJ for 21 years. My first convention was in 2003.
Right.
And I remember in 2004, when then President George W. Bush was running for president again and re-election, he was going up against John Kerry. And that year was held in D.C. Now I'm giving I'm dating this a little bit. You'll see where I'm going with this because I'm showing you this is how I'm giving you a history of why NABJ did this and why there was still some backlash in the aftermath.
Please, to the viewers too, and I'm also an NABJ member too. But not as long as Michael has. But go ahead, Michael. Please.
Yeah, I know. I'm showing my age right now. I guess with my saying 21 years.
Oh please, but I was a member of NABJ, guys.
So don't even go tripping like, oh, he's old. No. I'm still
you're
young.
Fine, Michael. But please go ahead.
But going back to 2004, when we were in D.C., we had invited both George W. Bush and John Kerry was his opponent that year because they were both running for election. Both of them came and spoke at our convention in D.C. that year. Now, a lot of us did not like what Bush came to say to us at the convention. I think they were more receptive to John Kerry when he came and spoke because a lot of it was about what he was going to do in the aftermath of 9/11, what his initiatives were after the crisis that happened in 2003 with the Iraqi war, et cetera. So it was a pretty tense time there too. Maybe not as intense as it was last week in Chicago, but we have had a history of inviting presidential candidates. Now, when Trump was elected, when Trump was running for office in 2016 against Hillary, that year, that convention was held in D.C. We had invited both Trump and Hillary to come speak at the convention that year because, let's face it, we have, as journalists, have a reason to want to have the people that are in political power a reason to speak to us. These are the ones that we need to hold them accountable because people are going to see this, and this is who they're going to be basing their decision-making on who to vote for that November.
Right.
So Trump did not show up, though, in 2016. He actually declined the invitation in
I
2016.
remember that. I think that
Right.
was an email being sent too from NABJ.
Right.
Yeah.
He had declined that year, but Hillary did show up and spoke.
Right.
Now, everybody had their views on that. I was saying that, well, let's face it, Trump was showing that he didn't care at that time. He showed his true colors. And as I mentioned earlier, if you've been following Donald Trump since he announced he was going to run for president in that year, then we should have not been surprised by his approach to us. And yet Hillary was willing to speak to us. Even go further back, 2007, when we were in Las Vegas. Then Senator Barack Hussein Obama came and spoke at our convention, and Hillary came and spoke, because remember, they were both running for the Democratic ticket that year.
Exactly.
And Hillary and Barack both came and spoke to us that year. So going back now to 2016, we knew that Hillary was going to speak because she has shown that she wanted to speak to us. We knew, okay, we're not surprised Hillary wants to talk to us. We get that. But then when Trump got elected in 2016, we try to invite him to speak to us in 2017, the next year after that, which was held in New Orleans for our convention. He once again declined the invitation, and he sent Omarosa, who was part of his campaign team. Oh, he was part of the staff at the time. Omarosa came to New Orleans, and that didn't end too well either. That was pretty heated with the I don't know if you saw what happened, but it got pretty testy at times when she came to New Orleans, and there was a lot of backlash from that too.
Oh wow!
I think her and Ed Gordon got it was a really intense discussion, and Roland Martin was there as well. So it was a bad taste in our mouths that week too in New Orleans. Now, fast forwarding to what happened in Chicago earlier this month. Well, a lot of us were wondering why the NABJ was doing this, because, again, I just gave you a little bit of a history of what's been going on since 2016.
Right.
It's like Trump decided not to come the 2 times or 3 times we invited him, but this time he accepted it. And if you've been following his track record, then a lot of folks would not have been surprised by what he was going to come and say to us. Now, he says he wants to get the black vote. He's been pushing that initiative for the longest. We all have our views on that. I know I have my views on that. I again mentioned that transparency is a big part of this, because we all want to hear what he has to say, although we were appalled. And I can honestly say, I think a lot of us can say, even in the context of me being a journalist, that we were appalled by what he said, because we were very unhappy with what he said. We were very unhappy with the treatment of the black journalists on the panel, 2 of them anyway. Right. And we just felt that this was a bad time, because NABJ is also a time where a lot of journalists from around the country, and you've been following the media industry lately, it has been a very topsy-turvy year for media outlets. You've been hearing about layoffs, cutbacks, companies merging, people losing jobs. It's a very trying time for media.
It is.
This convention is supposed to be a time where young professionals who are coming from across the country, even from the globe down, mind you, it's one major city, trying to use this week as their last chance to find a position before the fall kicks in. Because once the fall starts, it's all bets are off. So this is their one chance they have, if they can't go anywhere else, to try and meet with people from industries around the country that are hiring for jobs. And we just felt like this was probably not a good time for that, because we didn't want him to taint the mind and the mood and the vibe, which it somewhat did when he first came. And yes, I do also believe that Vice President Kamala should have been invited during the convention. I know they are working to get her after the fact, but in my view, I had wished that they had done that during the time that we were in Chicago, because it probably would have balanced out the feeling and the mood when Trump had initially shown up. It probably would have been more, okay, we heard from him, but now we're going to feel a lot better, because now we're hearing from, and a lot of us, and I can honestly say a lot of members probably would have preferred hearing from Kamala, because I think they all resonate more with her views than Trump's views. And I do say that for a lot of members, because I think that was the pulse I was getting was that, yeah, she should have been in Chicago too, not just Trump.
Well, you're also a Howard alumni as well, right?
Oh, you know that. Well, that's part of it. Yeah, I'm sort of a little biased here, because yeah, I'm a graduate of the real HU. Just to emphasize that for y'all out there that want to try and talk to me about Howard, we're the real HU. So you know who wants to? Yeah, we back our Bison. We go strong and we go hard for our Bison.
Hey, I attended to FAMU, so hey, you know.
Well, you're HBCU fam, so we can support that. You're a part of the HBCU family. There's that meme that goes around, shows to pick the guys from Goodfellas saying that, we alum around HBCU alum can joke, but when y'all outside of HBCU family joke and don't know much about what we do in our HBCU family, it's like, wait.
Right, right,
Y'all
right.
don't know nothing about us in our HBCU service. Y'all gonna have to just sit this one out and let us handle our business as HBCU fam. And that's usually the case, and that's usually what it's like with NABJ too. I mean, they call it,
Yeah, it's like
they
a
say it's like a
family.
black family reunion because we all
Yeah.
have not seen each other within the course of the 9 or 11 or 10 months. And then that's the one time we all get together for 1 week in one city to try and catch up on what's been going on
Especially
the
the party.
previous. Listen, we already know about the parties, okay? I went to a couple in myself. And let me tell you, but that's my point though. We like to get
Mm-hmm.
loose. That's also part of the thing
And
about
then get
going to
back
the
to
convention.
work.
Well, we do have to work. Well, here's the thing. We also got to make sure that we maintain our professionalism when we're at
Oh
these
yeah.
venues, okay? Because you know
Uh-huh.
we're in the era of smartphones and photoshopping and all that stuff. So people can easily take the phone and say, I saw such and such at this party doing such and such with such and
Mm-hmm.
such. And before you know it, you are dimed out on social media. You
Oh
become the
my
trending topic that you don't
goodness.
want to become. You're becoming the news now. Now you just became a news story.
Right. And going back to, I remember only attend NABJ convention twice. One back in 2019 at Miami, which was fun, which was great.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
also a fun time. I'm sorry, not Miami. It was in Aventura. That was where it was at.
Right.
We were just
Yeah.
outside Miami that
Still
year. It was
Miami.
billed
It's
as being
still,
Miami.
you know,
Well, yeah, it was billed as Miami, but we were actually in Aventura, which is about 20
it
minutes
was
from Miami.
like a suburb, right?
Well,
But
I'm not knocking the convention. I'm saying it was still a great time. I'm just saying that we were actually in Aventura. We were outside Miami, but it was still a good time down there, though.
it was, and also to piggyback about presidential nominees. I believe Bernie Sanders was there. I didn't attend, unfortunately. I missed that one, but I remember Bernie Sanders at
Yeah,
the
he was
time
there. He
was
was.
there.
He
Yeah,
was there.
yeah.
He
But
was.
no, guys, I'm telling you right now, NABJ, excuse me, is a great organization and good
It
time
is.
too if you go to the
Like I said, I've been a
convention.
member 21 years, so I know. And it
Yeah.
has its ups and downs like anything else in life. I
Mhm.
mean, we can be
Right.
critical, we can be praising of it, and then we can be critical like they took a lot of heat for this last week. But again, we are professionals here, and not everybody
Exactly.
was down with Trump coming to Chicago last week, but he did it and he made it work for his benefit. Um, it's unfortunate, though, that we hear now a lot of NABJ chatter amongst the political realm because as we get closer to
Exactly.
election today, that's going to be associated with him being there. Is that, well, he was at the NABJ conference and said this. It's like, well, now we're going to be part of that story when they talk about the political chatter going forward. Like, you'll never not hear NABJ now in any type of reporting when it comes to politics now.
We'll see. I think NABJ can recover, and also to just piggyback onto the question. I also do believe that Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump should just both be in that arena. That way, it gives especially in our community, a perspective who you should vote, and listen, to either nominees, what their perspective and what they want to do for our country moving forward. You know,
It's a critical
for
time right now. This is a critical election year. I mean,
yeah.
this is probably going to be bigger than it was in 2020 because there's so much at
Oh
stake.
yeah.
First of all, you have a woman of color running for the highest position, not just here in the
There
United
you go.
States, but in the world.
In the
They
world.
call that position the leader of the free world.
Yeah,
So this is why it's such a crazy time. And this is why I
it
think,
is.
in my opinion, not only is the coverage important, but I think the biggest thing to me, and this is just why I think of anything, people can say what they want to say about this, but I do check occasionally. One of the first things I did when I moved out here to Colorado was go to register to vote. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be one of the biggest obstacles or one of the biggest tasks that any person can do right now. Make sure you are registered to vote. It's only August, early August. There's still
Right.
time. Check with your municipality. Yeah, I guess you could call this maybe giving the PSA right now. But make sure you are registered to vote in your communities and your
Exactly.
municipalities because you do not want any unnecessary drama come Tuesday, November 5th.
And
And
not only that
yeah,
too. Sorry, cut you off, Michael.
no,
Not only
that's
that
just, yeah, go
too.
ahead.
You want to find, not find, but you do want a leader that thinking, moving forward, what's best for the country. I mean, look, right now, where our technologies are advancing, with AI and everything. You want a leader to understand what's going on, what's changing, and thinking about the next generation, like Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I mean, yes, you got the baby boomers, Generation X, and us millennials or Z millennials that are now in the workforce. You got to think about the rest of like younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha, because they, right now, especially with technology, things are advancing and they're going to be the one taking over, more
Right,
and,
right.
and everything.
And
So,
I think that's what makes this whole approach right now with Kamala where it's strong, because you're getting a lot more youthful folks involved in this. I mean, you're seeing it on both sides, but you're seeing the uptick since
right.
Kamala was. She hasn't formally accepted it yet, but she will. But when she does become the official Democratic nominee, then you're going to see a bigger uptick in people wanting to support her, because you got a lot of them going after the youth, which is just as important,
That's the
because you want
key.
to get the youth. Yeah. You
That's
want
the
to make sure the
key.
youth, yeah. You got to go after the kids that don't know much about politics. They're going to be a critical part of this too. Reach out to them and see what they
Mm-hmm.
say and let them understand why it's important.